Alright, hello class, and Dr. Dalai today will present about cloud computing. This is Tech 3. I don't know what happened with YouTube, but alright. So overall experience before the projects and after the projects is pretty much close, except that there is two questions that I couldn't find the answer, or the answer that is very easy to explain. So before, cloud computing is a new concept to ordinary consumer. As a student, I only know about this one through the use of Dropbox, Box.com. What they do is they let you upload, file and whatever you want on it. It's like with a file size less than 200 megabyte on their web, and then you can access that to from anywhere, as long as you have an internet connection. So I have a couple questions. The first one is, what are the pros and cons of cloud computing? Is it really a growing trend of using everything online, or it's just a marketing, speech of those service provider? And the third one is how SAP and cloud computing interact with each other, and what would be the benefit and challenges. And the last question is, who can exploit most of the benefit of a mixture of SaaS and cloud computing? Right. So after a couple weeks of research, I see that cloud computing is a confusing topic, as mentioned earlier. Under service provider perspective, it's just a marketing strategy. If the product is based on virtualization, they may be working on bringing the system to a true cloud computing. But there are also providers who can bring critical and mission critical application that really bring cloud computing to businesses and end user. Under business and end user, the frustration that cloud bring to them is the same in purchasing and implementing SAP and its component. Additionally, they face provider marketing speed, such as cloud computing is a new thing, and you have to do this and that. Right. At the same time, they are a challenge on both parties, because not only the consumer face, there are challenges that both party, provider and user, must go through in order to migrate to this concept, such as system agility to meet increasing demand of businesses, or the reusability to reduce provider implementation costs. And last, going away from conventional system is a slow process, because each has its own advantage and disadvantage. A hybrid cloud seems to be preferable, as it meets requirements of both parties. So what is cloud computing? According to Wikipedia, cloud computing is the use of both hardware and software to deliver a service through a network. The term cloud comes from the idea that this complex interaction among different software and hardware before it can provide output to business and user. So some characteristics of cloud computing under consumer perspective are, infrastructure as a services, platform as a services, and software as a services. So amongst those three, if you take Dr. Dalai class, you already know what is it. So, but this one, interesting about this one is bringing the infrastructure as a services to cloud computing is the easiest way among the other three service. So how many service provider, what type of cloud service provider? How many type of service provider? There are 4. The first one is internal private cloud. As the name say, it's a comprised compute network, disk, and other resources specifically allocated for a single company at the company very own location. It is recommended. This is an introduction to cloud enabling a business, because it has high level of control and security, ability to comply with regulatory requirement, fewer integration issue, and lower cost compared to others. A hosted private cloud is a mix between public and private. A company wants to exploit the availability of software while adding its own know-how knowledge. Because of the resource is still inside the company, issue related to control, security, integration, and cost are less serious than those of public cloud. Further, since provider has to customize the service to meet the company, there's not much of saving that they can pass to consumers. Thus, the cost to process a hosted private cloud is considered as high, but it's still less than those of the private cloud. A public cloud, as the name stated, can be implemented to any consumer with the lowest cost from service provider in exchange for security, compliance, control. However, there is a company like VMware who try to exploit this niche by providing measurement of security and control of all the cloud provider. The idea behind is the same as I remember something called the SSL certificate, that every time you come to a new website and it asks you to do something and it's pop up something like it asks whether you trust this website or not. So what VMware do is almost the same. They provide some sort of certificate to assure user that this site is safe. And then last but not least is the hybrid cloud. It's a combination of all of the above. It described as any extended or tier platform comprised of interconnected public and private cloud or on-premise and cloud resources. This type of cloud is often implemented for front-end scale and resiliency while safeguarding the back-end resources and other sensitive assets. This definition is, I found it from Anderson and LaRocca 2005. In other words, hybrid cloud is a combination of the best character of, the other three that I mentioned earlier. So I try to Google how many, who are the best service provider of last year. So among those lists, I have a list here. I'm not going to read all of it, but I only recognize, Amazon, Microsoft, and Verizon. I start to know VMware because this semester I use VMware Client to access, the SaaS program. So, what is the advantage and disadvantage of cloud computing? The first and foremost advantage of it is the mobility, because user can access company resource from anywhere in the world and do not have to carry performance hardware with them all the time to achieve the same power processing. A standardized business process, that's the next advantage. Make an introduction of cloud concept more appeal to many companies, because for a short-time consumer who are able to achieve more first mover status and quickly mobilize resources to provide meaningful output. Because company use less of its infrastructure and platform, the need of IT department is greatly reduced. As a result, return on investment of using cloud is very obvious. So I just mentioned about the advantage of cloud computing. Now we go to the disadvantage. It can be traced back to whatever I meant in the advantage session. First, because companies use to achieve first mover status, they will eventually face the systematic issues such as integration to a more robust, customized system to sustain a company competitive advantages. At the same time, there is all the other company who come in as a second mover, so they also have their own advantage too. The next, downside of cloud is lower implementing costs seem to welcome small and medium-sized entity because the economic of scale of large organization make implementation of cloud less beneficial. So for cloud service provider, you are dealing with small and medium size. Maybe your profit margin is not that high. Okay, unless consumer use internal private cloud computing, they will have to deal with supportability issue. So I want to use another example to illustrate a supportability issue. You may hear or know about the 64-bit and 32-bit system. The advantages of running a 64 hardware can improve performance of overall system. However, there is a lag between hardware and software since the programmer sometimes they use the program they use and they know actually run on 32. So there is no software out there that can provide us or let the programmer do their work in a 64 native environment. So whenever we refer back to cloud computing, its concept is somewhat similar to client and server platform or virtualization system. However, the legacy system that has been support those interrelated things will stand there for a while until business and consumer ready to move to the next step. And then one of the last one is the demographic restriction is another disadvantage of using cloud computing. And because of the government regulation, this kind of service cannot be made available to some part of the world. In other words, provider must be controlled because they are capable of leaking important consumer information such as R&D data, company sensitive information. Public cloud provider shows the lowest protection toward consumer security. So you can see I will repeat the same thing over and over. So the next topic is is the next session I will talk about is is it really a growing trend of using everything online, or just use it through a virtual infrastructures, because SAP is an online system already. Alright, the question reflects a challenge that SAP and other service providers face is innovation versus invention. The authors, see cloud computing is no more than a product of marketing that service provider try to sell to consumer because their products are reaching the maturity age. In this case, it is obvious that cloud computing is not an invention nor innovation. An interesting fact is that cloud computing exists in 1996. If you use Microsoft Live Hotmail products, you may already see it there. Additionally, server client architecture can exist in cloud context. If we take a look at the figure 1, the whole concept of server client architecture can be brought back to the IaaS. In the meantime, those legacy systems are still prevailing. Cloud computing needs more time to develop to a level that consumer and provider can trust. Now, because SAP is like one of the big brother that provide ERP and other service to organization, I want to see how they adopt cloud computing to their own business. Okay, according to Anderson and LaRocca, SAP did not make the switch between client-server and more contemporary computing models in one great leap. Instead, they offer a web-based computing platform, also known as a SAP Web Application Server, to help push the SAP application evolution. This is more like a foot in the door technique to help company and community. uh, you know, toward adoption cloud computing. In this way, the web AS achieve more flexibility instead of increased agility of business and technology. So it provides support for extensible markup language XML thing and the web service technology. At the same time, SAS suggests 5 principles to enterprise service-oriented architecture. They are abstraction, modularity, standardized connectivity, loose coping, and incremental design, 4 of which have been applied in the case of J.D. Edwards one-word software projects that we study in the semester. While standardized connectivity and modularity help providers reduce costs of providing a unique services to each company, loose coping and incremental design open door for business to improve security and stability. Right. At the same time, SAS suggests 5 principles to move enterprise service-oriented architecture. They are abstraction, modularity, standardized connectivity, loose coping, and incremental design, 4 of which has been applied in the J.D. Edwards one-word software projects that we have learned during the semester. While standardized connectivity and modularity help providers reduce costs of providing unique services to each company, loose coping and incremental design open doors for business to improve security and stability. Real-world scenario of cloud computing are one of the limitations of my projects. Because it's confusing, because I can always bring a virtualization concept or a client server concept to make it such a real one. So I just list out some of the example, and I want to hear back your opinion. Rapid deployment of resources and use it for a short time is one of their scenario. Expo and events that require to use information technology resources, will definitely benefit from using cloud computing. Another example scenario are a small company that use common software such as Microsoft Office can share number of license copies, since not all the computer will use the same program at the same moment. So we can have some sort of there is a specific number of employees will use this type of software at one moment, and the other time they're gonna use another set of employees will use the same thing. So in conclusion, cloud computing is definitely an interesting topic for business and provider to dig in, but it needs to meet both party requirements. In general, it must leave some room for provider to reuse resources that they deliver to customer. When maintain a favorable agility to meet business growing trend. SAP company did a good job in defining their strategy to adopt cloud concepts such as abstraction, incremental design, modularity, loose coping, and standardized. So that's it for my presentation, and see you around campus.